All right. Welcome to a special edition of Three Count Thursday, a draft episode of the highest order. It is spooky season, so of course we have to do things in a very high order. We are drafting pre 2000 horror movies. And we've got a wonderful dais in front of us. Of course, representing Three Count Thursday, we've got Matt. Matt, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well, ready to do this. I made my list today, and then I changed my list and changed it again. So I'm ready. I think I have my order set to
Awesome.
go.
And also representing Three Count Thursday, we've got Ryan. Ryan, how are you this evening?
I couldn't be here. My town had a Halloween parade this afternoon, so I caught the Halloween parade to get in the spooky season festivities and have my list, but I don't even know if I put it in order. So I don't know how I'm going to do with this, but we're shot.
You know, you just draft with your heart, and everything will turn out fine. Good to see you got a little trunk or treat in, and you heard the laugh. Friend of the podcast, friend of the show. It's Miss Valentina Vasquez. Valentina, how are you tonight?
I am good. How are you guys?
We're good. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful draft episode, a Patreon exclusive, but not really. We'll also be dropping this around probably the day before Halloween to get people in the right type of spirits for all of the things that go bump in the night. But the way we are doing this draft, 5 rounds, everyone will draft 5 different movies of the horror variety, all made before the year 2000. Before we started, we set the draft order. I believe Valentina's first, Ryan is second, and Matt will bring up the rear. So hopefully and it's a fixed draft order, so that will be the order that rotates throughout the entirety of the draft. So I don't have Big Jim's magical soundboard, so I'm not going to hit the NFL draft music. You don't have to wait for it. But with the first overall pick, Valentina, you are up.
Okay, so my list is all over the place too. So I'm gonna just draft as my heart desires. The first one I'll pick is Nightmare on Elm Street, Dream Warriors.
Nice.
Do I keep going?
No.
No.
Okay, I was like, do I keep going? Okay.
All right.
Is that your favorite? Is that your favorite horror movie? Is there a reason that one's number 1 on your list?
I wanted to throw you guys off because one of my favorite horror movies is definitely on here, but I didn't want to say it as my first one. But I think that I personally think that's I think that's the best Nightmare on Elm Street. I know a lot of people have a different opinion. I also like the second one too. I think that's really great and progressive for its time. But yeah.
Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. Would you say that where does Freddy rank for you on like the list? Because obviously there's going to be there's a power ranking on movies, but then there's also like a power ranking on the horror villain. So where does Freddy sit for you?
So that's a hard one. So I'm gonna say probably third.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see the others come up as they go along. Ryan, you are up, and just as a reminder, you cannot take Not Another Teen Movie.
Oh, it's such a great film. Such a great film. Out of respect, I actually will eliminate any Nightmare on Elm Street movie from my list and let that whole franchise be your first pick then. And like you said, I think there's just something very sinister about Freddy attacking you like at your safest in your bed, in your sleep. like when you should feel the safest.
Mhm.
Just brilliant filmmaking by Wes Craven. I will go with one of my all-time classic favorite films, even outside of a horror genre. For my first pick, I'm going to go with the 1980s Stanley Kubrick classic, The Shining. Just such a beautiful movie. The scenery of the Overlook Hotel is absolutely stunning. Jack Nicholson's just fantastic. So many quotable lines from that film. Uh, I felt like that my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie, one of my favorite directors of all time. So that has to be my number one.
Awesome. And I think didn't, if I'm trying to remember right, Nicholson, was this pre or post Oscar win?
I didn't know there would be a follow up.
I want to say it's post. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Right, because I know that he did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and didn't. I don't think he won it for that. And then the make good of it was The Shining.
Yeah.
So I think this might have been what he actually won for. Let me double check. As my that's my computer going off. If you guys are hearing that, so 19.
I like hearing you type. That's very soothing. Hearing you.
Yes, I have. I'm a nerd of the highest order,
Like
so I
rain
have
pattering
got
in the
my
background.
I've got my mechanical keyboard. So he did win for he won for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest in 75, and he should have won in Chinatown the year before in
Right.
74.
That's why I was like, I thought he won for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but my old school film trivia is not the greatest.
Yes, I always try to. I like to get all my facts straight. I try to have it all in the head, but of course, after long days, you have to fact check even yourself. So, solid first pick with The Shining. Matt, rounding out the first round.
Yep, solid first pick. Also, one of my favorite Treehouse of Horror episodes is The Shining. So, shout out to that pick. And I will also leave the Nightmare franchise alone, even though there are some solid ones still left on the board within that franchise. But I guess for my first, I will just pick my favorite horror movie of all time, even though it's probably early for this one, but I'm going to go with 1982's The Thing, starring Kurt Russell.
And why is The Thing your favorite horror movie?
It just has everything. I mean, it has the wavy haired Kurt Russell. It's got dogs. It's got aliens. The special effects in it were so ahead of its time, and I think that's what really scared the crap out of me when I initially watched it as a youngin. Just because as like CGI got better, that film I think still holds up in terms of what they were able to do with the special effects scene the way it was in the early 80s, and the acting is just fantastic. It's a solid cast throughout, and that just elevates that film to me.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about, even though it's 2021 and graphics and the practical props and sets are more advanced, the crudeness of what stuff was back in the time frames we're talking about for these movies leans more into stuff that's definitely more appealing to like a horror film. Like, it doesn't have to be pretty. Let it be grimy, let it be like not so much janky, but like it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's why it stands up over time as well, to your point, Matt. So solid first picks all around. Valentina, we are back to you for the start of round 2.
Okay. I'm gonna pick my favorite. I'm gonna put Scream, the first one. It's iconic. I think it helped horror come back to life during that time. I had to also make sure it was before 2000s, just
Yep.
because I wasn't 100% sure if it was. So I had to really make sure before it was 2000s. But yeah, I think horror was just falling off of grace, and then Scream came out, and then it made everyone back into horror fans. And also it's iconic.
Yeah.
I still see kids wearing the ghost face. So
I know. I mean, it even speaks well to, well, I think it speaks more well to the actual movie itself and the franchise, as opposed to like the money grubbing part of it.
yeah.
But Scream is such a good franchise that, I mean, we're going to see another one next year, hopefully, unless things get pushed back like we've seen in Hollywood recently with all the Marvel stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely I have memories of being at a cousin's house on a Halloween, and I am a big scaredy cat. There's a reason why I'm not in this draft, and I'm just the adjudicator. And I remember going to my cousin's house, and she put this on, and it was like 3:30 in the afternoon. Not dark, lights were on, everything was there, and I was crying so hard that I made my cousin take me home before trick or treating. I was like, I can't. I'm too scared. I gotta go. I gotta go.
Aw.
I couldn't do it. So
Yeah.
Little Tim.
I know. And I think there's still a part of me that hasn't fully seen all of the first Scream. Like I've seen others, but I need to do my due diligence. My girlfriend is a big horror fan. She's been watching a lot of stuff while I've been locked away playing New World. And so she's enjoying herself during this spooky season. I'm sure I'll be giving her the rundown of the entire draft order and give her ideas on things to go watch after this. But Scream, first pick of the second round, very solid. Ryan, back to you.
That was going to be my round two, number one. I think.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a great time to pull it out. It's probably my favorite too. I was 13 when it came out, and I remember I was back in the Boy Scouts, so we all watched it together, and then went on like a camping trip in
Oh,
the
God.
woods. And it was such a great, like, scary weekend to be a 13-year-old, like in the woods right after watching that movie. And it was just something about, like, so simple of, like, dude with knife. It can just cause so much damage. It was such a great movie. So that was going to be my number two, because it just holds a special place. Like in my mind, I can remember, like Tim said, like I can remember watching it. Oh boy.
Sorry.
All right. No, that's fine. That's fine. I'll keep it old. I'm going to go 1973, and The Exorcist is going to come off the board here. This is a movie that I remember watching for the first time and like having a conversation with my parents, and they were like, "Oh, split pea soup, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it was crazy." And then like I had that same conversation with my grandparents. Like this was the movie in the horror film that like I feel like just transcended generations. That my parents talked about it, my grandparents saw it, and it spooked them and talked about it. I saw it as like the third generation. So when a movie can last that long, and I think it's like the number 5 grossing film of all times in the horror genre, which is something to really be said. When like the remakes, like It made a ton of money, but to have The Exorcist still ranking up there and like the top 5 holding strong, it says something about that movie. So number 2 round pick for Ryan, The Exorcist.
Yeah, I mean, to even go one more step further with what you said, thanks to the ultimate source of all movie knowledge, IMDb, it is Warner Brothers' highest grossing film of all time when adjusted for inflation.
Wild.
And the Warner Brothers have so many different franchises and intellectual properties, and this takes the cake for them. Yeah, this is another movie that's like very, very polarizing. I mean, from just how even to this day, for me, I can watch certain horror movies, but when we start talking about like possession and like taking over someone's body, I'm like, yo, this is real. Like this is actually happening. I can't watch this. Like with this, and then like newer movies like The Exorcism of Emily Rose, even to a certain degree, like The Conjuring. Those things like shake me. And that same goes for The Exorcist. I saw that when I was much, much older. Just because I kept it at an arm's length. And it's like, no, I can't let this in. I can't let this in. And then like, okay, we'll watch it. And of course, it's very much for me, lights on. I have to keep my eye on the door. Nothing's going to scare me. No one's going to, no, don't sit next to me. Don't touch me. Don't bump me. I'm good. So, Matt, last pick of the second round.
Yeah, for this one, I am going to actually fit in right under year 2000 in 1999. And it's not necessarily one of my favorites, but I think it spawned the next generation of horror films with the found footage. So I'm going to choose the Blair Witch Project as my third pick in this round.
And we're still seeing like that blueprint being followed with the small budget, big profit horror movies. I mean, you look at Paranormal Activity, the first Saw movie, I believe, had like a very, very, very small budget and exceeded the expectations and then went on. That's another one that was, it also was like, I think it was one of the first movies I remember that did a great job with like viral marketing, even in like 1999. Like that's a phrase we use all the time nowadays. But the fact that it was like people thought that this was real, and like, how is this actually a movie? And then of course you watch it and you kind of get it. But that's to the credit of the director, or to the group behind it, on how to promote it and how to utilize it. Now, of course, we're not talking about Blair Witch 2 Book of Shadows.
Right.
No. That is no. The juxtaposition between those two is a country mile. So we don't like talking about that. It's much like Saved by the Bell, the new class. You don't talk about it. So Blair Witch Project closing out the second round. Valentina, you're back on the clock.
So I'm gonna pick Black Christmas, the original. Yes. I was my first time watching it was this year, and I really, really enjoyed it a lot. I was very genuinely surprised that I did. But it's very progressive for its time. And also I just like the idea. Spoiler, sorry guys, if you haven't seen it. The ending. Like I love how it's like, oh, he's in the house. So yeah.
So I've never seen this movie, and I know that they remade it
1,000 times, yeah.
Right. What's the split between being a Christmas movie and being a horror movie?
Well, this is based on, I think it happens around Christmas, like Christmas break. So, but there's definitely no cheer, and this like there's no cheeriness. I think you see like snow and a Christmas tree, and that's probably it. But it's very, very like, yeah, very dark Christmas, if anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Neat. Fun. Ryan, your middle pick of the third round.
The middle pick. I'm going to go slightly newer. We're into the 90s now. I'm going to go 1990s It. Just something about an evil demon, child killing clown that just did it for me. I have no problem with clowns. Never scared of clowns, but man, Tim Curry, what a great film. Great. I just absolutely love it. I love the remakes of it.
Yeah.
So when you could remake something and it's just as good as the original, that does it for me. So it comes in number 3.
Yeah, and you kind of jumped ahead of like where I was going to ask, but like, how do you three compare? Like, is it the remake a good, or because obviously people tend to hate remakes normally because they don't do them justice. Um, do you all feel like the It remake stacks up
I
compared to the original?
okay, so I hate clowns.
I
So like
gotcha.
I absolutely hate clowns, and I never watched the original because that one like freaked me out so much.
Right.
I watched the remake, and it's a well done film. He's also terrifying, so don't get like I don't know. I just randomly was like, I want to watch it because everyone's talking about it. I got FOMO, but yeah, no, I do not like.
Gotcha.
I thought it stood up. I really did. I thought it was a fresh take. But it was really, I thought, true to the original story too.
Yeah, I thought so as well. It was just nice to see everything kind of updated in that regard. But I do love the original one as well, just because I think Tim Curry was so creepy as Pennywise in that one that I think that like they had to try to do more shock value with it this time around because they didn't have that aspect to it. So that was the only difference I would say, which would make the original one favorable to me.
Makes sense. What's favorable to you for your third pick?
So for this one, I'm just going to go with the classic, the 1978 Halloween, the one that started it all. I think that, we've seen that franchise kind of take off the way it has, and it's really held up. A lot of sequels on there that I think, even if they're panned critically, they're still a lot of fun. They still, Ryan and I were discussing even the third one where it's just kind of the mask is the villain. It still kind of makes everything like that much more fun because that mask is so iconic. And I think that really kind of set a tone moving forward in terms of what we're looking for out of our villains.
Absolutely. Now I don't know if I missed a conversation about this before I got here.
You did.
You did.
So Halloween Kills is polarizing. Like, I've heard many people say that they loved it, and I've heard many people say that this is a step back and like this is too far off the path, unbelievable, not the story. Where do you all shake on Halloween Kills?
The latter.
Yeah.
Tim,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think it's both. It was fun. I didn't hate watching it, but it was too much.
Yeah.
I think a horror movie should be fun and you should have an enjoyable time. But at the end, you're like, oh man. So really, both polarizing takes on it, I share.
I agree.